Hello everyone. Welcome back to another SCP wiki reading stream. One day, I might even get to 200. I'm hoping that day is by the end of this break. But here we begin. I believe we had... Hold on. Let me double check where we were last time before we start. But I believe we ended with CP39. You know what? It's easier to check like... Oop, oop. Yes, we ended with 39, so we are definitely on 40. SCP-040. Object Class: Anomalous Human. Containment Class: Active. Hazard Rating: Yellow. Standard Containment Policies: 2-person residential module. No amenity restrictions. Access to site library, recreational facilities, cafeteria, and public areas. Supervised. Dietary restrictions: mild peanut allergy. Youth educational curriculum attempts: Doctors Abernathy, Logan, and Aizawa. Bi-weekly psychological review: Dr. Abernathy. Schedule B experimentation plan. Special containment procedures: SCP-040-1A, 1C, and 1J have been approved to remain in the containment chamber with SCP-040 for the purposes of the subject's mental well-being. Security Chief Specialist Order 392-5, blank dash blank dash blank. All other entities modified by SCP-040 SCP-040 during testing are to be disposed of after study according to standard biological specimen clearance protocols as outlined in document CDP Bio EN1. Description: SCP-040 is a human child, capable of at-will manipulation of the physical characteristics of living organisms. Modified organisms are collectively referred to as SCP-040-1. Modifications are primarily cosmetic, ranging from simple color and pattern changes to more involved shifts in bodily form and structure. The creation of new specialized organs is possible, but appears to be the limit of SCP-040's ability, and currently has a 66% failure rate in testing. Modifications are limited to what would be physically possible, regardless of the probability of such a feature naturally arising. For example, while SCP-040 can grant an organism wings that does not naturally possess them, they will not permit the creature to fly without meeting other physical requirements. SCP-040-1 undergo behavior shifts as part of the modification process, acting with extreme loyalty to SCP-040, regardless of prior association. I think we're going to get a bit far if I don't read this part out first. Date of birth, circa 2000. Subject claims to be 8 years old at DOC. I believe that's going to be the date of containment. DOB, unknown. DOC, blank, blank, 2008. Height, 111 centimeters. Weight, 20.7 kilograms. Hair, bright pink. Eyes, green, yellow heterochromia. Black scleria? Other notes: blind in left eye, sensitive to burns, and easily bruised. Hair is brittle and falls out easily. Okay, back to reading what the actual article contains. SCP-040's anomalous properties require significant focus and time to enact, and causes intense headaches and nausea when performed for more than a few minutes at a time. The effect becomes increasingly unreliable and inaccurate with the smaller the modifications and more complex the changes are. SCP-040 is incapable of altering microscopic organisms, and has great difficulty in altering plant life. Dead organic matter may also be used, but must be used in conjunction with a living organism. Instances of SCP-040-1 cannot be modified more than once. though it is currently unknown if that is a hard limit of SCP-040's properties or from a lack of mastery over them. SCP-040's emotional state is within acceptable boundaries for an individual of its age group. Accounting for the effects of prolonged containment and parental separation, subject's intelligence is slightly above average for its age group. Behavior is generally cooperative. SCP-040 acclimatized quickly to its containment and responded well to initial orientation and socialization programs. SCP-040 responds to the name 40 and does not appear to have any other given or chosen personal name. Recovery summary. Subject was taken into custody on blank 2008 as part of the raid on the keys to the Kingdom Christian Charter School for Gifted Youth in Redacted, Colorado. The raid's primary objective being the capture or execution of blank, a former CIA operative who had previously worked alongside the Foundation intermediaries as part of Project Black Book, Project Smilodon, and Operation Stargate from 1967 to 1971, was successful. Blank was terminated on site and disposed of without incident. Of the 15 children recovered at the facility, SCP-040 was the only one to demonstrate anomalous properties. The others were administered amnestics and placed in Foundation-observed foster care. Interviews with staff at the school revealed that they were unaware of Blank's prior history or any connection with Foundation operations. They were administered amnestics, put under a 6-month communication monitor. No relapses were recorded. See Operation Hatzelworm After Action Report for a complete event record. Addendum 01. SCP-040 is currently allowed custody of the following SCP-040-1 instances. SCP-040-1A, symbiotic organism capable of changing size, shape, color, and texture in reaction to its environment. Subject serves as outer clothing similar to a jacket or sweater, and absorbs nutrients from SCP-040's bloodstream. Subject was recovered alongside SCP-040, and genetic testing reveals that the subject shares the majority of its genetic makeup with the common house cat, Felis catus. SCP-040-C, spherical organism capable of flight by means of rubbery bladders filled with lighter-than-air gas mixture. Entity has 11 limbs, terminating in opposable digits, and a complex respiratory system, capable of replicating a wide variety of musical patterns. SCP-040-1J, quadruped organism covered in a thick coat of pink and blue fur. Entity has no eyes, a broad mouth with blunt teeth, and is capable of climbing up vertical surfaces, occasionally used by SCP-040 as a means of transport. Addendum 2. The following interview excerpt is dated blank 2008, shortly after SCP-040's initial containment and orientation sessions. Dr. Abernathy. Good morning, 40. Yeah, it's a female. Good morning, 40. SCP-040. Good morning, Miss Abernathy. Dr. Abernathy. Sounds like you're getting over your cold. SCP-040. Mm-hmm. Dr. Abernathy. I'm glad. Can I ask you a few questions before we start today's lesson? SCP-040. Yeah. Dr. Abernathy. Can you tell me about your parents? SCP-040. Mr. Green says I don't have any. Dr. Abernathy. Can you tell me about Green then? A footnote, investigation during Operation Tatzelworm confirmed that blank had been operating under the name Henry Green since at least 1982. So that's the guy that they were after originally. SCP-040. He was nice, but he wasn't very good at talking. He would always talk like this. But he wasn't there a lot of the time. Most of the time, it was the nurses looking after us. Dr. Abernathy. And what did they do for you? SCP-040. They'd play games with us and teach us things. And sometimes they would make us wear those dumb helmets and sit quiet for a long time. Sometimes they'd put a movie on for us if we behaved, but if we were bad, they would lock us in our rooms. Dr. Abernathy, can you tell me anything else? SCP-040. They always served us peas for dinner, and I hate peas. So I gave mine to 5 because she liked peas. But I think greens are better. End of interview. Addendum 3. Blank 2009. SCP-040 successfully reanimated a deceased human body during testing, using 3 specimens of brown rat, Rattus novagentus, gonna try, as the required living component. The resultant subject retained no memories of previous life and was judged to be of the approximate mental capacity of a human toddler. SCP-040 was highly distressed by the event and refused further testing for the next 3 weeks. That is the end of 040. On to 041. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-041 is to be hospitalized at Bioresearch Area 12. Though not Keter class, should SCP-041's abilities ever propagate beyond a reasonably containable area, the risk of SCP-sensitive information being broadcast to the public remains too great a risk and warrants area-level isolation away from the general populace. SCP personnel wanting to keep their thoughts private are advised to remain outside a 15-meter radius from SCP-041, beyond the designated red circle on the floor. It is beneficial for the mental health of SCP-041 to have a sitter in the room who watches television and concentrates on the programming. This allows SCP-041 to effectively watch television through the mind of someone else. The optimal sitter is a Class D personnel with below average intelligence whose mind does not wander or have more than one train of thought at a time. Though not mind control, SCP-041 has used its abilities to coerce sitters into watching programs they don't themselves enjoy. SCP-041's tastes vary between gore/slasher films, having even expressed interest in snuff, and children's programming. SCP-041 is a human male suffering from irreversible damage to his central nervous system, which is believed to have been caused by an infection of a rare strain of bacterial meningitis. Although antibiotics were successful in clearing the infection, the membrane surrounding his brain and spinal cord had reacted to the infection by severing many neurons connecting the central nervous system to the rest of the body. SCP-041 must rely on a respirator to sustain his breathing, a biventricular pacemaker to keep his heart beating, and a nasogastric tube to provide nutrition. Visually, SCP-041 appears to be in a persistent vegetative state. However, observers in the presence of SCP-041 begin to realize that their thoughts, along with everyone else's in about a 10-meter radius of SCP-041, are broadcast in a semi-audible fashion. Aside from being the source, SCP-041 is also capable of broadcasting his own thoughts to those present. Anyone forming an idea using words will have those thoughts unwillingly transmitted to those in this range as mind-audible speech, which cannot be recorded by any known equipment. Correction, see Addendum 01. Mind-audible speech may be heard using whatever voice a subject chooses to think with. Most typically, this is the subject's normal voice. See Document 01. Visual thoughts and images are broadcast as well, but are not received as readily. Images are most effectively transmitted when both the sender and receiver have their eyes closed. The sender concentrates on a single object without environment or background, and the receiver's mind is clear of conscious thoughts. Communication between subjects using visual images, particularly those not rooted in memory but in imagination, is usually difficult. The sender typically has trouble conceiving a highly detailed mental object from a single point of view, while the receiver will often try to fill in gaps of missing information, ultimately ultimately resulting in the receiver seeing a different image from what was sent. The most difficult imagery to be successfully broadcast appears to be a person's face, particularly if the image is one of a person in motion. Although able to transmit his thoughts to others, SCP-041 is not very talkative. Attempts to persuade SCP-041 to divulge any information about his abilities has been so far fruitless. SCP-041 is typically silent, and normally will not respond to any direct attempts at communication. However, SCP-041 appears to have a sense of humor, as he interjects occasional comments into conversations of others. Addendum 01. While researcher blank blank was taking voice notes using a digital audio recorder, a fellow researcher was changing the television in SCP-041's room. While the television was on channel static, disembodied voices could be heard filtered through the white noise. Attempts to record mind-audible speech with white noise generators and sound recording equipment has begun to yield modest results, though most audio is garbled and recording sounds may or may not be the voices and are widely left towards individual interpretation. Addendum 02. It has come to my attention that several personnel have used SCP-041 as an ad hoc she likes me not detector. This is one of the most appalling things I've ever heard. Are we safeguarding potentially world-destroying objects, or are we in the 3rd grade? Dr. Klein. Document 01. Researcher's quote. You know, the first time I was in that room with Kent and 41, I kept hearing the singing. It was this little girl's voice singing some kids' song. It wasn't on the TV, and it definitely wasn't the radio. It was in our heads, you know? So I think, you know, if I was stuck in bed without anything else to do, I'd sing like a little girl too. And then a voice comes into my head. Hey, it's not me, and I don't know that tune. And then old Kent looks at me, gone all white in the face, you know? Note, this event occurred after SCP-239 was placed in a chemically induced coma. Any connection between the two SCPs is currently unconfirmed. That is the end of SCP-041. The only link is one to another SCP, so we'll get to that one when we have the time to in the future. SCP-042. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-042 is currently housed within Minimum Security Paddock 12 at Bioresearch Area 32. Despite SCP-042's seemingly disinclination to attempt escape at this point, security measures must still be maintained at all times. Previous attempts to maintain the health of the ground cover in Paddock 12 has failed to date. Despite regular waterings, SCP-042's presence leaves the ground parched wherever it treads. As it has not been determined what happens to added water, the program of watering has been discontinued as unnecessarily and potentially hazardous to the local water table. Monitoring of local wells levels and sampling of the area's water is to be carried out on a weekly basis. Personnel interacting with SCP-042, including any handlers, medical personnel, feeders, and custodial staff, must submit to a thorough search, including data redacted, prior to entrance into Paddock 12. Any personnel attempting to smuggle a weapon or an object that could be used as a weapon is to be immediately data redacted. Personnel are to undergo psychological screening once per week, after interacting in any way with SCP-042. Medical personnel examining the wounds on SCP-042's back are to be closely monitored at all times lest they attempt to euthanize SCP-042. Description: SCP-042 is an animal believed to be a member of the genus Equus. Its coat is white in color, with some brown spotting. It stands at 183 centimeters, 18 hands, to its withers, and weighs 710 kilograms. Its weight has dropped significantly since it has been in Foundation custody, due to both atrophy from lack of physical activity and refusal to eat. The liquid nutrient diet forcibly administered keeps it alive, but it remains emaciated and weak. SCP-042 and exhibits 2 large bone protrusions from its back, linked to powerful musculature, now atrophied, throughout its back. These bones end at 37 centimeters from the surface of its back, and they protrude from skin at open, ragged wounds. To date, no healing has been observed of these wounds, though some clotting must be taking place for SCP-042 to not bleed out. SCP-042 exhibits a listless demeanor, and has been unresponsive to any attempts by skilled handlers to incite activity. If allowed to do so, SCP-042 will lay down on the ground immobile, not moving to eat, drink, or relieve itself. Pain response conditioning has proven somewhat effective in getting SCP-042 to rise so that it can be cleaned, but eventually it will attempt to lay down again no matter the strength of the shock administered, even to the point of losing consciousness. Researchers are divided as to SCP-042's level of intelligence. While some believe that it is simply an animal and no smarter than any other of its genus, others have come to believe that it may in fact be sapient. It has been shown to make eye contact with persons entering Pattern 12, most of whom describe its looks as pleading. SCP-042 has been involved in accidents on multiple occasions where it has been injured on pieces of equipment or its enclosure, with which those arguing for intelligence believe to have been intentionally caused by SCP-042. Addendum. A request submitted by Dr. P to transfer SCP-042 to Bioresearch Area 4 on blank blank 19 blank, which was approved by 05-5. Dr. P altered transportation documents to indicate that SCP-042 was to be airlifted rather than transported by armed convoy. During the transit, Dr. P overpowered the pilot of the transport aircraft and took the controls, plunging the craft into a steep dive. Passengers and cargo experienced nearly a minute of weightlessness before security personnel regained control of the aircraft and leveled off. As Dr. P was being bound and the plane landed, SCP-042 broke free of containment and kicked 2 security personnel to death in the cargo area. Cargo-based security footage shows that after this point, SCP-042 approached Dr. P and touched its muzzle to his face. Dr. P exhibited signs of euphoria while contact was maintained. But when additional security personnel subdued SCP-042 with tranquilizer darts, contact was broken, he collapsed into a catatonic state from which he did not recover. After hearing concerning his actions, Dr. P was euthanized while under Foundation medical care on blank blank 19 blank. That's the end of SCP-042. As far as I could tell, the most notable thing about this is that it didn't want to tell us much straightforward about what its actual powers were. It appears that, from what I was reading, it was able to, in some way, destroy the grass, or destroy the water in the grass, leaving it desiccated. It had what I assume were at one time wings on its back. It's probably a reference to some kind of mythological horse, and I'm not quite sure other than of course that assumed sapience. Anyway, on to SCP-043. SCP-043, Object Class Safe, Special Containment Procedures. SCP-043 requires no special containment, although it is recommended that SCP-043 not be used for purposes other than testing. A turntable is to be maintained in the same room for testing. Description. SCP-043 appears to be a vinyl copy of the White Album by the Beatles. However, upon closer inspection, the record has no grooves. In spite of this, the record will play from start to finish regardless of the starting position of the needle. When the 29th track is reached, instead of playing Revolution 9, the disc stops spinning, and faint breathing can be heard. Occasionally, the entity responsible for the breathing will speak in a male voice. The entity will respond to questions and shows a profound encyclopedic knowledge of the music industry, music theory, and obscure trivia about many bands and artists. However, the entity refuses to answer questions regarding the Beatles or its own personal details. Inside the jacket is a small handwritten note was found, reading, Limited Edition 1 out of 1. Thanks, John. XX. I'm going to check out the music theory note. Links to an SCP. We will get to that someday, I think. I hope. All right. And then we have Beer Than Jesus from Questions Regarding the Beatles. It's from the On Mount Golgotha. On Mount Golgotha canon. How long is this? Right now, I'm not going to read this. Someday, if people ask me to, I will. I don't mind doing this. Heck, if I can get other people to read it with me, I will do a full thing like that. However, the likelihood of that happening is almost zero, because my friend base is very small. But, yeah. Well, that'll be the end of SCP-043 for now. On to SCP-044. SCP-044. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. A constant stream of hydrogen atoms, unbound oxygen atoms, and other trace-free radicals emanate from the muzzle of SCP-044 at all times. Because of this, the docking stations of SCP-044 are to be well ventilated to keep dangerous gases and moisture from accumulating. Muzzle coverings are to be fitted at all times to keep birds and small animals from investigating the large open barrel of SCP-044. Addendum. Blank blank 2000 blank. As SCP-044 has not been involved in any significant incidents in blank years, it has been held by Foundation. Or in the blank years, it has been held by the Foundation. SCP-044 has been reclassified as safe. Must I really define significant incidents? If containment procedure and standard safety protocol are followed, 44 appears no more dangerous than any other big fucking gun. No, the bare incident does not count. 05 blank. Description. SCP-044 is a howitzer secretly manufactured in the late stages of the Second World War by Krupp engineers, personally supervised by Albert Speer, German Minister of Armaments and War Production under Adolf Hitler. SCP-044 is unique not only because its size, 251,000 kilograms, or 251 metric tons, but also because it fires unconventional artillery, using an atypical delivery method. Rather than having a breech for loading shells, the rear of the barrel is configured into a massive air compression chamber. Any object or pile of objects that fits may be loaded into SCP-044's muzzle to be used as ammunition. Because of its size, SCP-044 must remain rail-mounted and requires 2 freight locomotives to move. Researchers believe that SCP-044 weakens molecular and atomic bonds in any material loaded into its muzzle. However, the method by which SCP-044 affects molecular bonds is not known, due primarily to the numerous complex mechanisms that compose the housing and workings of SCP-044. In fact, some mechanisms appear useless and seem to do nothing other than spin or make noise, even when SCP-044 is not supplied with power. Both equipment and personnel have been lost while exploring the inside of SCP-044's barrel. When SCP-044 is fired, all matter within its barrel is ejected at a high rate of speed as a glowing red slug, proportional to the size of the amount of mass loaded into the muzzle. Upon striking a solid object or the ground, the slug explodes with a yield proportional to the mass of the original ammunition, at no less than a blank % mass to energy conversion rate. And as there are 3 levels of blank, that is either an increased amount over 100%, which would, of course, be theoretically impossible, or it is exactly 100%. The yield will also increase somewhat the longer the slug remains in the barrel. The greatest known yield was achieved when the administrator's 8,900 kilogram, 19,500 pound personal diesel pickup truck was loaded in its entirety into the muzzle of SCP-044 and fired in the pictured experiment. The pictured experiment is up here, and it's, to put it simply, a really big explosion. Alright, that is the end of SCP-044. On to SCP-045. Object Class Safe. Containment. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-045 is to be kept affixed to an experimentation platform in a hemispheric chamber measuring 5 meters in radius at Oceanic Research Station 12. Location at blank blank, comma, blank blank on the seafloor of the Pacific Ocean. The chamber is to be kept filled with gaseous neon at equilibrium pressure with the surrounding environment. The chamber is separated from habitable portions of the station by 5 meters of local seawater, and all interactions with SCP-045 are to be performed via telepresence or robotic means. The buildings that attach SCP-045 to its platform are fitted with quick-release latches, which are to be released when necessary to prevent a containment breach. Given the seismic activities associated with SCP-045, if the containment chamber is damaged or breached by seismological activity, SCP-045 should be recovered by remotely controlled drone vehicles and kept at least 10 meters from human-inhabited spaces until such a time as repairs can be completed to the optimal containment chamber. Description: SCP-045 is an icosahedron composed of ice 12, I believe. And there's a note here. A metastable form of ice that is typically formed only within the narrow ranges of very high pressures and temperatures. And that is a real form of ice, by the way. Heavily occluded with planar fracture in a regular complex pattern. SCP-045 has an average radius of 1.7 meters and a density of 2.6 grams per centimeter cubed, which is approximately twice that of a non-anomalous ice-12. SCP-045 remains in a stable state at temperatures ranging from 0.074 to 500 Kelvin, approximately negative 273 degrees Celsius to 227 degrees Celsius, and pressures ranging from 0.4 pascals to 3 gigapascals, approximately 3.95 microatmospheres to 29.6 thousand atmospheres. Although it is possible to melt or vaporize SCP-045 at temperatures and pressures outside of these ranges, the H2O involved is attracted to itself by unknown means and will remain within very close proximity unless forcibly separated. The water will refreeze as soon as conditions return to a position inside SCP-045's stable range, and any subportions kept separate prior to refreezing will freeze into smaller icosahedrons identical in form and properties to the total amount of SCP-045. Based on available research, it is currently believed that SCP-045 is a three-dimensional projection of a icosahedron. There is a footnote here. A regular polyhedron that exists in 4 spatial dimensions and has 600 regular tetrahedral facets. Research is ongoing to determine how SCP-045 is able to maintain a stable lower dimensional projection, and whether this can be adapted for use when interacting with other dimensional anomalous SCP items. At unpredictable intervals ranging from 2 weeks to 3 months, SCP-045 will spontaneously rotate around multiple axes simultaneously for a period no longer than 73 seconds. During this period, a series of small seismic events, less than 2.5 on the Richter scale, will occur in the immediate area of SCP-045. If 045 is prevented from rotating, the seismic events increase in strength logarithmically to a maximum of 5.3 on the Richter scale. Following the end of the rotational period, the radius of SCP-045's effect will temporarily double for the same amount of time that it rotated. While gaseous nitrogen, or argon, and there's a footnote here, nitrogen composes approximately of 78% of the Earth's atmosphere by volume. Argon composes 0.93% of the Earth's atmosphere by volume. back to the actual reading. When gaseous nitrogen or argon come within 3.7 meters of any portion of SCP-045, they are replaced by different compounds. N2 is replaced by liquid water at a conversion rate of 1 mol N2 to 1.98 mol of H2O, and AR is replaced by crystalline NaCl, table salt, at a conversion rate of 1 mol AR to 4.26 mol NaCl. SCP-045 was discovered in 1972 when a Foundation submarine scouting the Pacific Abyss Plain for suitable locations for undersea bases was diverted to investigate the epicenter of a series of unexpectedly localized strong tremors. SCP-045 was found lodged into a crevice, which had apparently prevented it from rotating. When removed from the crevice, it was brought towards the vessel for further study, and upon coming within range of the interior atmosphere, exhibited its anomalous effects. This resulted in a catastrophic breach of internal containment protocols and the loss of 12 crewmen prior to SCP-045 being released and the submarine moving out of range. Addendum. Following several years of testing, it was accidentally discovered that SCP-045 also converts hydrogen gas into a mixture of simple amino acids at the rate of 1 mol H2 to 0.04 mol amino acids. However, this conversion only occurs when the gas is diffused in saline water, such as that produced by SCP-045. Analysis of the seafloor surrounding the location where SCP-045 was discovered has revealed a large community of microfauna and microflora that is approximately 3 times as diverse as what would be expected given the geography and location. All have biochemistry wherein the amino acids produced by SCP-045 are statistically overabundant as compared to the microbiota from similar geological regions. Additionally, all thrive when immersed in pure salt water devoid of other organic materials. Footnotes. We already read the footnotes, yeah. Okay, that is the end of SCP-045. Next is SCP-046. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. The land surrounding SCP-046 has been purchased and surrounded by multiple layers of security, including fencing, barricades, and lethal effect traps. Multiple signs marking the area's private property are to be prominently displayed. The area is to be heavily guarded at all times to prevent access from civilians to SCP-046. All personnel working around or within a 50-kilometer radius of SCP-046 are to undergo rigorous medical testing to ensure the absence of potentially life-threatening illnesses. Additionally, increased mental health examinations are to be administered to ensure that no personnel inclined or potentially inclined towards self-harm or self-destructive tendencies are allowed within the 50-kilometer radius. Any injured personnel are to be evacuated to a hospital outside the 50-kilometer zone around SCP-046. All vegetation surrounding SCP-046 is to be destroyed, and all animals attempting access to 046 are to be terminated and destroyed before reaching its outer perimeter. Any personnel showing unusual interest either in SCP-046 or in traveling to the region near SCP-046 are to undergo medical examinations as detailed above. Any modification to these containment procedures are to be approved by O5 Command before being added to its containment document. Any personnel attempting to modify this document without appropriate authorization are to be demoted and reassigned. And we've got a message from... I'm not going to attempt to say that name. I am so sorry. What do you think about the war in Ukraine? Only in simple words, I am not strong in English, and now I'm writing through a translator. I find the war in Ukraine to be a very tragic circumstance of someone who should not have been in power in Russia, aka Putin, essentially deciding in a state of mental unfitness that he does not believe that Ukraine should be free, and he was probably in all likelihood scared. And so he declared the attack on the Ukraine, and part of the reason that it's continued thus far is just because, more than anything, everyone under him is going to tell him that it's good as much as possible and that things are going well, and he himself doesn't want to admit that things are going badly, so they're just going to keep going until some unknown time in the future. If I could, I would love to help out the people in Ukraine, but as a broke college student, it's not exactly in my abilities to do so. Hope that answered your question, and if you have any others, feel free to ask. I will wait for breaks in the stuff that I'm reading in order to answer the questions, but yeah, I'm always happy to answer them. Alright, back to SCP-046. Description. SCP-046 is a predatory biological mass located in southwestern Kentucky. SCP-046 is composed of two parts. SCP-046-1 is a large mass of vegetative matter, composed primarily of large plants indigenous to the region, including Quercus alba, Ilex aquifolium, and Lonicera sempervirens, or sempervirens, I believe. Though several offshoots composed of other plant species are also present. SCP-046-2 is the land in the immediate vicinity of SCP-046-1, extending to a roughly circular area, 20 meters in radius from its base. This area is SCP-046's primary feeding area. SCP-046 is capable of attracting prey within a 50-kilometer radius through hallucinogenic means. All evacuations of personnel should carry them outside of this radius to disable SCP-046 effect. You personally support Ukraine? Just say yes or no. Yes, I do support Ukraine. Back to the article. Animals, including humans, suffering from potentially life-threatening physical injuries or diseases, or who are afflicted by psychological disorders that induce self-destructive tendencies, feel a powerful compulsion to come to SCP-046-2 and lie in a prostrate, I believe that's laying down in kind of like a bowing fashion, position facing SCP-046-1. Individuals laying in such a position are rapidly attacked by an unusually powerful combination of soporific organisms and opportunistic infections, including several strains of methicillin-resistant Streptococcus aureus, MRSA, known to induce necrotizing fasciitis, also known as flesh-eating bacteria, a form of fungal spore similar to Nope, not going to try and pronounce that first part. Chitarum, or black mold, which poisons prey organisms and induces paralysis. And finally, complete consumption by several hereafter unknown species of insect that emerge from the inside of SCP-046-1. During the final stage of feeding, SCP-046 appears to derive nutrition through the complete digestion of affected individuals, particularly large mammals such as humans. It is unknown whether SCP-046 is capable of growth. As such, all steps are to be taken to ensure that SCP-046 is deprived of prey until more information is known about its abilities. These efforts are to include terminating individuals prior to their arrival at SCP-046 and disposing of their bodies in a separate location. Addendum 046-A. Investigation is ongoing into potential memetic effects brought about by knowledge of SCP-046 due to anomalous effects demonstrated by certain personnel in response to SCP-046. Access to documentation 046-7 is restricted to Level 4 personnel and above. Document 046-7. Is this... Okay, so it looks like that this is a new note for the... Okay, yeah, so this is the actual notes for the SCP. The ones above appear to have been some sort of cover story for the less initiated. SCP-046, Object Class, Safe. Special Containment Procedures. The land surrounding SCP-046 is to be cordoned off, marked as private property, and surrounded by multiple layers of fencing. The area is to be guarded by no less than 10 guards, though minimal armaments are required. While knowledge of SCP-046 effects is not to be made widely known, personnel afflicted with life-threatening diseases may be permitted to enter SCP-046-2 after psychological screening for self-destructive tendencies. Likewise, D-Class personnel selected for termination may be effectively exposed to SCP-046-2 to facilitate this process. Due to the lack of threat to Foundation security, individuals not employed by the Foundation may be permitted access to SCP-046 through though Foundation needs for access take first priority. Description: SCP-046 is composed of 2 parts. SCP-046-1 is a cylindrical area, 5 meters in diameter, and 30 meters tall, containing several species of plant matter, including Quercus alba, white oak, Ilex aquifolium, European hollybush, and Lonicera sempervirens, Kentucky honeysuckle. Though several offshoots composed of other plant species are also present, no anomalous traits have been detected in the molecular composition of the plants. SCP-046-2 is a clearing of grass extended approximately 20 meters around SCP-046-1. SCP-046 anomalous effects extend principally to animals, including humans, that are threatened by chronic or debilitating illness or injuries. SCP-046 is frequently visited by such individuals. Humans of this type report having felt a compulsion to travel to SCP-046's location, often reporting that the location came to them in a dream. Psychological evaluations have consistently shown that such individuals were not previously aware of either the Foundation or SCP-046's specific properties. Individuals feeling this previously aware of either the Foundation or SCP-046's specific properties. No, I just reread the same sentence. Sorry. Individuals feeling this compulsion have all reported having been within 50-kilometer radius of SCP-046 at the time. This is believed to be the outer range of the object's compulsive range. Individuals who come to SCP-046 consistently describe a dream in which they lie down in the vicinity of SCP-046-1 and rest. Immediately upon entering SCP-046-2, individuals suffering from chronic pain or traumatic mental conditions will describe their symptoms as receding, accompanied by the feeling of calmness, relaxation, or euphoria. Individuals lying down in front of SCP-046-1 will begin to be covered by several vines, similar to runners of the Cynodon dactyliodon plants known as Bermuda grass, followed by the apparent sprouting of C. datylon all over the body. SCP-046 has no compulsive properties, and its effects will only manifest on individuals willing to experience the effects voluntarily. Individuals exposed to SCP-046 will remain communicative until they are no longer visible behind the grass growing on their bodies. All individuals exposed to SCP-046's effects describe a feeling of peace and serenity, and a happiness that they will be able to die pleasantly. SCP-046 appears to fully decompose individuals exposed to its effects within 2 hours, and may or may not use decomposed tissue as a food source. Addendum 046-1. SCP-046 is to be reclassified as Euclid and primary containment document to be rewritten to demonstrate 046's predatory nature by order of O5 Command. Any references to voluntary individuals are to be removed. Description is to be rewritten to emphasize volatile and lethal nature of SCP-046 and potential threat thereof. Addendum 046-2. There is no evidence whatsoever of SCP-046's predatory, or has any desire to harm any creature unwilling to expose itself to SCP-046's effects. Suggest original containment procedures be reenacted and voluntary access to SCP-046 continued. No individuals are capable of breaching Foundation security once exposed to SCP-046. As such, there is no reason to deny affected individuals the opportunity for relief. Likewise, there is no reason to make this entity seem more hostile than it actually is, aside from a desire to portray every object in Foundation custody as dangerous. Some things must be contained simply because they are strange. Dr. Edward Carter, Head Researcher, SCP-046. Addendum 046-3. Dr. Carter, Principal Researcher of SCP-046, is to be removed from his position and reassigned to the SCP-1250 project. Addendum 046-1 stands by order of O5 Command. That is the end of SCP-046. Moving on to SCP-047. Object Class, Header. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-047 is to be contained in a 0.5 meter by 0.5 meter by 1 meter hermetically sealed storage box at all times. This box is to be locked in storage locker 047A, inside P3 Secure Biohazard Lab 047B. Any entrance to and activity inside 047B will be recorded by biometric scan, closed circuit camera, and redacted. Entry to 047B requires the authorization of the project manager, in addition to at least one O5 level clearance. SCP-047 is to be treated as a Priority 4 contagious biohazard in all protocols, including mandatory quarantine if exposed. Suite Q047 has been provided adjacent to Lab 047B for this purpose. In the event of outside contamination of 047-1, Lockdown Protocol 047-1, Yersinia must be engaged. Description: SCP-047 is a heavily rusted and breached gas cylinder made of iron redacted alloy. When exposed to open air, the material of the cylinder evaporates slowly, producing a previously undocumented When exposed to open air, the material of the cylinder evaporates slowly, producing a previously undocumented mutagenic gas. I kept trying to add another syllable in there, and I'm not sure why. This gas has no effect on eukaryotic organisms, e.g. humans, but profoundly alters prokaryotes, showing preference for common human microbiota, the natural microorganisms that live on the skin and throughout the body. On rare occasions, these mutations produce a superbug, collectively known as SCP-047-1. In natural commensal with enhanced survivability and therefore opportunistic pathogenicity. The pattern and changes induced by SCP-047 suggest that these highly infectious microbes are at least to some degree selected for. Although the specifications of SCP-047-1 species are dependent on the base bacterium for which it is derived, there are several characteristics which appear to be generally consistent across all cases of SCP-047-1 mutation. Enhanced survivability in the bacterium's natural environment and similar environments. Full-spectrum antibiotic resistance. increased reproduction rate and consumption of available material, development of sporulation ability in gram-positive bacteria, increased ability to uptake, hold, and share plasmids, particularly in gram-negative bacteria, increased transmission due to the traits described above. SCP-047-1 samples are normally debilitating and virulent. However, compared to other Keter class SCPs, it should be noted that SCP-047-1 have a relatively low mortality rate due to their action through mundane biological pathways. Several strains of bacteria have been selectively mutated through SCP-047. Mutation of bacteria in culture is possible, but the process appears to be much more effective with bacteria living on a human host. General mutation of naturally commensals for experimentation purposes is encouraged. After the containment breach of 30/1/2010, see Incident Report Yersinia 047, Yersinia 047-1, 2010, mutation of a pathogenic species is banned, and all existing samples must be destroyed. 3 particular species of SCP-041 mutated bacteria are of note due to their involvement in the containment breach of blank blank 2000 and blank. Propionibacterium 047-A is a strain of Propionibacterium acnes mutated by SCP-047. Details: pathogenicity, severe skin pollinization around sebaceous glands, modification of skin pH to levels that become toxic to skin cells, massive inflammation and immune cell infiltration, eventual breakdown of skin structure leading to sepsis. Transmissions. Transmitted by skin-to-skin contact, can remain active on inorganic surfaces for up to 5 hours. Lethality. Approximately 40% mortality rate. Runs its course in 2 to 6 weeks. Very visible symptoms within 5 to 10 hours. Contagious within 2 to 5 hours. Handling. As soon as visible symptoms form, victims must be quarantined. Deceased victims should be incinerated. Streptococcus 047-C, a strain of Streptococcus mitis mutated by SCP-047. Pathogenicity. Causes inflammation of the mouth and esophagus initially. Leads to open sores in the mouth, which result in S-047-C entering the bloodstream and becoming septic. Death is usually due to infectious endocarditis. Transmission. Droplet. Can remain active indefinitely by sporulation. Lethality. Approximately 35% mortality rate. May become a recurrent chronic condition if non-lethal. Handling. Subjects with any sign of mouth infection should be quarantined. Deceased victims should be incinerated. Clostridium 047-A is a strain of Clostridium difficile, mutated by SCP-047. Pathogenicity unknown. C-047-A was developed from tissue culture and has never been exposed to a human. No samples remain in Foundation control. Transmission unknown, presumably transmitted through fecal contamination, as with C. difficile. Due to smaller, more robust spores, may also aerosolize with flatus. Effects of aerosol intake of C-047-A cannot be predicted. Lethality unknown, presumably high risk of destruction of endothelial lining of gastrointestinal tract, leading to inflammation, sepsis, and toxic megacolon. Handling. Until further research has been done, victims should be quarantined and placed under 24-hour medical observation to develop functional diagnostics for this strain. Deceased victims should not be incinerated until adequate etiological research has been performed. Recovery Log 047. SCP-047 was recovered from Site Blank Secure Laboratory by Foundation Biohazard Recovery Team in response to a full compromised situation on blank 1990 blank. Testing logs indicate that the research team was attempting to contain data expunged in a class blank SCP stable pressure cylinder, which led to redacted recombining with redacted. A full molecular biological analysis of this is available in redacted. The initial release of gas when SCP-047 was structurally compromised was sufficient to cause a microbial bloom of unaccounted species of SCP-047-1, killing all staff in the lab within blank hours. Exposed Site Blank staff obeyed standard Foundation quarantine containment protocol, and the infection was contained successfully. Then we are going to Incident Report Yersinia 047-1 2010. SCP involved. SCP-047. Description. On 30/01/2010, at approximately 300 hours, Storage Locker 047-C, Site Blank Lab 047-B, contained biological samples mutated by SCP-047, was compromised after a complete simultaneous data expunged, leading to failure of security measures in the area. 3 samples of a total 12 were stolen. Data expunged since the initial containment Data expunged since the initial containment break. Outbreaks of one of the stolen bacterial strains, Proponium bacterium 047-A, was recorded globally in communities of increasing size and population density. Further information on stolen material spread and containment follows. Compromised items. Proponium bacterium 047-A, Streptococcus 047-C, Clostridium 047-A. See SCP-047 for further information. Outbreak information. First outbreak, P47-A, 27/02/2010, Siberia. Contained. See Incident Report P047A-03-2010. Second outbreak, P047-A, 30/03/2010. Northwestern Territories, Canada. Contained. See Incident Report P047A-04-2010. Third outbreak, P-047-A, 29/04/2010. South Australia. Contained. See Incident Report P047A-5-2010. Fourth outbreak, P047-A, 27/05/2010. Matos Grosso, Brazil. Believed contained. See Incident Report P047A-06-2010. Warning. Agents in the area are advised to familiarize themselves with the symptoms of P-047-A and will be on the lookout for possible infection. Fifth outbreak, P-047-A, 26/06/2010. Redacted, Iraq. Site immediately data expunged, which is believed to have contained the infection. Access to Incident Report denied without O5 clearance. Sixth outbreak, P-047-A, 26/07/2010, Cameroon. Quarantine enacted. Efforts to track outgoing civilians underway. Infection not contained. See Incident Report P047A-07-2010. Seventh outbreak, P-047-A, 24/08/2010. Dalaran, Sweden. Quarantine enacted. Believed contained. See Incident Report P047A-08-2010. Warning. Agents in the area are advised to familiarize themselves with the symptoms of P-047. With symptoms of P-047-A and be on the lookout for possible infection. 8th outbreak. Not recorded. Believed to have taken place in North Korea. Data expunged. Agents with government access are attempting to gain access to parallel information, but due to data expunged, local services have been extremely uncooperative. Containment status unknown. 9th outbreak. P-047-A, 23/10/2010. South Carolina, United States of America. Quarantine enacted. Efforts to track outgoing civilians primarily successful. One civilian in a pickup truck is believed to have data expunged. Infection not contained. Resolution. Reports from data expunged indicate no further outbreaks are believed likely, but agents are advised to be on the lookout for new flare-ups resulting from uncontained civilians in previous outbreak regions. These may continue for years to come due to P-047-A sporulation. Investigation into the cause of the initial compromise is underway. Anyone with useful information may anonymously contact security via the attached form. And that is the end of SCP-047. I might end here. It depends on how long 047-8 is. Oh, yeah, we can read this. Okay. SCP-047-8. Or, what the? No. SCP-048. Item number SCP-048. Object class none. See description. Special containment procedures. The designation 048 is to be retired from SCP catalog. No future SCPs are to be reassigned this number. Or assigned this number. Description. SCP-048 has long been considered the cursed number by SCP staff. Any items given this designation tend to be destroyed, decommissioned, stolen, or otherwise lost to the Foundation, usually through no fault of any individual person. In addition, personnel assigned to SCP-048 in its various incarnations have had a 50% higher rate of turnover due to death, dismemberment, and disciplinary action. Whether or not the number 048 actually has any supernatural qualities is unknown, but given the superstition around this number, the designation has been removed from this catalog in order to help maintain employee morale. Addendum 1. This is ridiculous. I'll prove to you superstitious bastards that you're all just being pussies. The restriction on SCP-048 has now been removed and assigned to data expunged. Dr. Cortez. Addendum 2. SCP-048, data expunged, was accidentally thrown into the trash this morning and lost. In an unrelated incident, Dr. Cortez's arms were accidentally, traumatically amputated in a horrific lunchroom blender incident. SCP-048 closed. 0511. Addendum 3. SCP-048 has been once again removed from the archives after it became highly apparent that no such vampire boat had ever existed, much less come into Foundation control. It's currently believed that this error occurred when a low-level researcher attempted to save his awesome story idea to his hard drive instead overwrote the blank slot reserved for SCP-048. Said researcher has been removed from any and all archival duties for the time being. 05-11. And there's also a link to other popular works by this author. Let's see what SCP-049 is, how long it is. Understood. This is going to be one that we are going to read well when we get to it. I actually really enjoy this one, but we will have to come back to it later. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this reading. We had someone I'm still not going to try to pronounce, but the only part that it looks like I might be able to pronounce is Mambi, who asked about the Ukraine stuff, which, yes, I do in fact support Ukraine in that situation. I honestly feel bad for a lot of the people in Russia, but yeah, it's much worse for the people in Ukraine. But anyway, thank you everyone for coming. Anyone who came to the stream, thank you very much for coming. It's been an honor having you. Everyone who's watching the YouTube video, thank you very much for coming too. I hope that you'll leave a like and a subscription If not, though, I'd love to know why not in the comments. But thank you all for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful day out there. Au revoir, and enjoy.